All right, welcome to another deep dive. And today we're exploring something super interesting, the power of positive thinking. We're going to be taking some inspiration from a YouTube video, Power of Positive Thinking, from LEP, Learn English Podcast.
I love that.
And I think it's fascinating because, this is something that's kind of universally applicable. This video is actually aimed at English language learners. But who doesn't need a little bit more positivity, you know?
Exactly.
So let's dive right in. But, before we go too far, could you maybe remind us what exactly positive thinking is? I know it's not just about slapping on a happy face when things are rough.
Well, no, it's not just, forcing happiness. It's more about approaching life with a realistic yet optimistic lens. So, yeah, there are going to be challenges. There are going to be things that, don't go your way. But how do you look at those? Do you focus on the solutions and opportunities for growth? Or do you kind of, just get mired in the negative?
So it's like choosing to see the glass half full, but also actually taking action based on that more optimistic viewpoint.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. A good example from the video is imagine you're stuck in traffic and you're late for a meeting.
No, I hate when that happens.
Right. So a negative thought pattern might be like, oh my God, my whole day is ruined. But a positive thinker would reframe that situation and say, okay, I'm running behind, but I'll catch up when I arrive. And maybe even use this extra time to, mentally prepare.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
I'm definitely someone who lets a traffic jam ruin my whole mood, I'll be honest. But what's really interesting to me is, positive thinking. It's not just about feeling good. It actually, impacts our physical health.
Yeah. The Mayo Clinic, their research has shown that positive thinking can actually lead to a longer lifespan.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Wow. But how does that even work? Is it just less stress?
Less stress is a big part of it. When you think positively, your body actually produces fewer stress hormones, like cortisol.
Right.
And consistently lower cortisol levels can then, lead to better sleep, a stronger immune system, and even a healthier heart.
That's amazing. Do we have, is there any data on that? Or is it just
Oh, yeah. The American Psychological Association, they found that people with a positive outlook were 13% less likely to develop heart disease.
Wow.
They also tended to have lower blood pressure than those who dwell on negativity.
That's huge. Okay, so I'm sold. So where do I even begin? How do I cultivate a more positive mindset?
One of the simplest but most powerful ways is gratitude. Even when life feels overwhelming, there's always something to be grateful for.
I've heard about gratitude journals. Is that kind of what you mean?
Exactly. Just taking a few minutes each day to write down 3 things you're grateful for, no matter how small. And it can really shift your focus to the positive.
Like a mental reset button.
Yeah.
I love that. But what about when you're what if you're in the middle of something really stressful, like at work? Would gratitude still help in that moment?
Absolutely. Even amidst stress, you could write down things like, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for, having a job, having this opportunity to learn new things.
Right. It's like a little reminder that, okay, even on a tough day, there's still good things happening.
Exactly. But, we can be grateful all we want. We're still going to have negative thoughts.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Those little voices in your head can be so loud.
Exactly. And that's where positive self-talk comes in. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, you could try, I'm doing my best and I can handle this moment.
So it's like you're speaking to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend.
Exactly.
It's like being your own best friend.
Yeah.
And even though these little shifts in language seem, small, they can really have a big impact on how you feel.
Yeah, mentally and physically.
Wow. But, I think there's also this danger of forcing yourself to be happy all the time, right? Isn't there something called toxic positivity?
Yeah, that's a really important point. And the video does talk about that. Toxic positivity is the idea that we should always be happy and positive, even when we're going through tough times.
Right. It's pretending that everything's fine when it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we know if we're being truly positive or if we're slipping into that toxic positivity territory?
That's a great question. I think healthy positivity is acknowledging the full range of human emotions, both the positive and the negative, and facing reality head on.
Mm-hmm.
Toxic positivity tries to bypass or deny those difficult emotions.
So it's not about pretending to be happy all the time. It's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the challenge, but still having a positive outlook and taking action.
Exactly, yeah. It's about being real with yourself and others, but also choosing to focus on solutions and maintaining that belief that things can get better.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about gratitude, we've talked
Yeah.
about positive self-talk, but what about when it comes to, achieving our goals?
Mm.
Does positive thinking play a role there too? The video talked about something called visualization.
Yes, visualizing yourself achieving your goals is a powerful tool.
So is there any science behind that?
Absolutely. Psychology Today, the research has shown that visualization can actually activate your brain in a way that's similar to physically performing the action.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So just imagining yourself succeeding, like giving that presentation or crossing the finish line,
Mm.
can actually help make it happen.
Exactly. The mind is incredibly powerful. And by combining positive visualization with, believing in yourself and a willingness to take action, you significantly increase your chances of achieving your goals.
It's like giving your brain a blueprint for success.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
but it's not all about like the internal work, right? The video also mentioned something about the importance of our environment, like who we surround ourselves with.
You're absolutely right. The people we surround ourselves with have a huge impact on our mindset.
Okay, so it's not just what's going on in our own heads, but also like creating that supportive external environment.
Exactly. Think about it. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, it's going to be a lot harder to stay positive. But if you have those positive and supportive people around you, they're like, a cheerleading squad for your life.
I love that, lifting you up, celebrating your wins,
Exactly.
and encouraging you when you stumble.
Exactly. They remind you of your strength, especially when self-doubt starts to creep in.
So true. But what about, life throws those curveballs. How do we stay positive when things go wrong?
That's where reframing comes in. And the video offers a really powerful technique, viewing setbacks as learning opportunities.
Okay, I am so curious to hear more about that, but I think we're going to have to save it for part 2 of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the power of positive thinking.
I'm so glad to be back. And we left off talking about like how to stay positive when things go wrong. And you mentioned this reframing technique. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so instead of saying I failed, ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
So it's about turning what you might see as a failure into a learning opportunity.
Yeah, precisely. Looking for the lesson in every experience, even the challenging ones.
It's like that Thomas Edison quote, right? He said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways that didn't work.
Exactly.
Love that. So it's about adopting that growth mindset. Challenges are opportunities.
Right. And sometimes it's not even, just external setbacks. We can be our own worst critics, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
The video also talks about being kind to ourselves, especially when we make mistakes.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like harder to be kind to ourselves than it is to be kind to other people.
It really is. And so the video suggests becoming more aware of those negative thoughts and gently, challenging them. Ask yourself, is this thought really true? Is it helpful? Would I say this to a friend?
Yeah, like replacing that inner critic with a more compassionate voice.
Exactly. And when you challenge those negative thoughts, it creates space for, more positive and empowering beliefs.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
But here's a question I was thinking about while I was watching the video. What about when other people are being negative? How do we stay positive when we're surrounded by like negativity that we can't really control?
That's a great question. And it is something we all face. The video doesn't specifically address that, but it emphasizes the importance of creating a positive environment.
So maybe like being more mindful about the company we keep.
That's definitely one strategy. Choosing to spend more time with people who lift us up, who inspire us.
And setting boundaries with people who consistently bring us down.
Absolutely. Not about cutting people out, but protecting your own energy.
Mhm.
Sometimes the most positive thing you can do is create a little distance, even if it's, people that you care about.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I definitely learned that the hard way. Sometimes self-care means like creating that space.
Yeah.
Okay, but speaking of things we need to be mindful of, we were talking about toxic positivity earlier, and I'm curious to dive a little deeper into that.
Yeah, it's an important distinction. As we were saying, authentic positivity is about embracing the full spectrum of human emotions. Toxic positivity is about suppressing those negative emotions, right?
So putting on that mask and pretending everything is fine when it's not.
Exactly. And that can be really harmful because it invalidates our feelings and keeps us from processing them in a healthy way.
So how can we tell, like, if we're falling into that trap of toxic positivity?
Well, I think one way is to pay attention to how you respond to other people's struggles. If a friend is sharing something difficult and you're like, oh, just stay positive, everything happens for a reason.
Right. Dismissing their feelings.
Exactly. You're dismissing their feelings. Authentic positivity would be, acknowledging their feelings and offering support even if you don't have a solution.
Holding space for those difficult emotions.
Exactly. Recognizing that it's okay to not be okay.
Okay. Yeah. That really clarifies it. So we've talked about how to deal with setbacks, negative self-talk, even negativity from other people. But going back to like the goal setting part of positive thinking, can you remind us like how visualization works and why it's so powerful?
Sure. Visualization involves closing your eyes and really vividly imagining yourself achieving your goal, engaging all your senses, making it as real as possible.
It's not just thinking about it, but like almost like feeling it, seeing it, even smelling it if you can.
Exactly. The more detailed and vivid the visualization, the more powerful it will be.
But how does that translate into, real world results?
When you visualize yourself succeeding, your brain actually starts firing neurons in a similar way as if you were actually doing the action.
So it's like you're tricking your brain into thinking you've already achieved the goal,
Yeah.
which then motivates you to actually go do it.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so cool. I've always been like a little bit skeptical of visualization, but the science is pretty convincing.
It is a powerful tool, yeah. And, when you combine it with all these other, positive thinking practices, it can make a world of difference.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Anything else that you want to share before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
I think it's just important to remember that cultivating a positive mindset, it's an ongoing process. It's not, a one-time fix.
So it's not about being perfectly positive all the time. It's about like consistently making those choices.
Yeah.
To focus on the good, to be kind to ourselves, and to believe in our ability to create like a better future.
Exactly. It's about those small positive choices that you make each and every day. And over time, those choices will add up.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I have to say this has been one of my favorite deep dives we've done. I feel like I'm leaving with like a little extra pep in my step.
That's great to hear. It really is amazing how powerful our thoughts can be and how just these small shifts in our thinking can have such a big impact.
Yeah. And one thing that keeps coming back to me is this idea that positive thinking isn't just like, wishful thinking. It's about pairing those positive thoughts with action, right?
Yes, exactly. A good example from the video is wanting to learn a new language, like English. So instead of just wishing that you were fluent, a positive thinker would take steps, concrete steps, enroll in a class, find a language partner, immerse yourself in English media.
Yeah. It's about turning those positive thoughts into like fuel for action.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay, let's take those daydreams and turn them into reality, step by step.
Yeah, we have the power to create the life we want, but it takes effort, right?
Yeah.
And action. So positive thinking gives us the motivation and the belief, but we still need to put in the work.
Yeah. I think that's where some people, kind of get tripped up. They're like, oh, if I just think positive thoughts, everything will magically work out. But it doesn't quite work that way.
No, not at all. It's not a magic wand.
Right, right.
We still need to take responsibility and take those steps towards our goals. But I will say, when you approach those challenges with a positive mindset, it really does make a world of difference in how you persevere.
Right. Like you believe you can do it. So you're more likely to keep going even when it's hard.
Exactly. And you're also more likely to see the opportunities, the solutions that you might miss if you were just, focused on all the negative.
Yeah, it's like it gives you that extra boost of resilience.
Exactly.
Okay, so what if someone's listening to this and they're thinking like, okay, but I'm naturally a pessimistic person. Like, can I really change my thinking?
That's a great question. And the good news is yes. Thinking patterns, they're learned.
Okay.
So they can be unlearned and replaced with more positive ones.
So even if negativity feels like your default setting, you can still like reprogram your brain, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice positive thinking, the stronger it becomes. And the LEP Learn English podcast video gives some great tips for building that mental muscle.
Oh, like what?
So we've already talked about, starting a gratitude journal, practicing affirmations, surrounding yourself with supportive people. Those are all excellent strategies.
Yeah, great reminders. But I think it's also important to, acknowledge that, like, changing your thinking, it takes time. It takes effort. It's not going to happen overnight.
Absolutely. And the video really emphasizes uh, patience and self-compassion, right? We're all works in progress. Some days will be easier than others.
Right. It's about celebrating that progress, not beating ourselves
Yeah,
up.
exactly. It's like, learning any new skill. It takes practice, it takes consistency, but, with time and effort, you can absolutely rewire your brain for more positivity.
I love it. This deep dive has been so inspiring. I'm already thinking about, like, all the ways I can apply this to my own life.
That's great.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into the power of positive thinking, what are some key takeaways? Like, what can people start doing today?
Well, first of all, remember your thoughts have power.
Hmm.
The way you think about yourself, about the world, it really has an impact on your well-being.
So choose those thoughts wisely.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when those negative thoughts creep in, challenge them.
Right.
Ask yourself, is this really true? Is this helpful?
Mm.
Replace them with more positive, empowering ones. And don't forget to practice gratitude.
Oh, yeah. Such a simple thing, but so powerful.
One of the simplest, but yeah, most effective ways to shift your focus. And be kind to yourself. It takes time. Celebrate the progress and don't be afraid to ask for support when you need it.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. I think the most important thing to remember is that you have the power to create the life you want, right? And it starts with your mindset, believing in yourself, believing in your ability to make those changes.
Beautiful. So to all of our listeners out there, we encourage you to embrace the power of positive thinking. Start small, be patient with yourself, and watch as your world starts to transform. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those positive vibes flowing.